Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Today is Thursday, March 19th, 2020. It is 12:06 p.m. I am Master Thich Thong Lai and wish to extend my warmest greetings to all compatriots in the country as well as overseas. This morning, I will answer several questions regarding the situation of the United States and Vietnam due to the coronavirus, Wuhan. Please let me read an email from a group of Buddhist followers in the United States. Master, I watched a press conference this morning given by U.S. President Donald Trump. He was very angry and condemned the Chinese communists. He also condemned the left side media for publishing fake news while the United States is being attacked by a Chinese viral pandemic. While Americans are not united, especially to the left side media, such as CNN. He further condemned the Chinese communists for concealment of the virus. Therefore, the whole world is angry with the Chinese. We are a group of your disciples who live in the United States. As we turn on the television channels, we are bewildered. Will the United States overcome this pandemic? We see that there are numbers of U.S. politicians in the Democratic Party who have condemned President Donald Trump for being insufficient in dealing with the problem of the corona Wuhan virus in the United States. Master, please give us some advice. We watch all the Vietnamese forums and TV stations. We notice their news go against the speech of the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Please take some time to answer these questions. Thank you, Master. Please take care of your health so you can continue to maintain the system of the imminent village when there is no longer a pandemic. I wish you the best health, Master. Signed by a group of Buddhist followers whom live in Southern California. I would like to answer this group of Buddhist followers' questions. This morning, I also watched the speech of the President of the United States, Donald Trump. He was very angry, but his anger was shown us that he is a responsible president. Every day, President Donald Trump has a talk about the situation of the Chinese viral outbreak in the United States. Please watch these conferences so you don't waste your time and my time. Do not listen to the left side media network that are rating. Do not watch the Vietnamese television stations either because they get news from the left side television stations. It is not conducive for the United States President and the United States of America. I made it clear that I only put my belief in the President of the United States, and I only listen to what the President of the United States says. I refuse to hear what the left side media say. If anyone, citizens, U.S. President Donald Trump for being inefficient, I think that there is no second person in the world who can be better than the U.S. President Donald Trump. First of all, ever since the outbreak of the Chinese virus has spread into the United States, he immediately had a press conference and asked for a budget of $2.5 billion. The Congress gave $8.3 billion, then up to $50 billion. Recently, he was asking for $500 billion, and currently he is asking for $1 trillion to pay for unemployment of the airline industry due to flight suspension and pay for all other people who cannot work because of the outbreak. Every employee of the United States who files their taxes, the government will send a check of $1,000 in April. Americans can temporarily have some money to spend in response to this epidemic. You can see clearly, I think, that there is no president who can do better in the world than the President of the United States. If anyone says that he did not do a great job, you ask that person to speak up. How is it that President Trump didn't handle the situation efficiently? How? From now on, I advise my disciples to listen to the American media only. If they know English, listen directly to the talks of President Donald Trump. If you do not know English well enough, ask your children to translate to you to listen. The tabloid stations and newspaper only make you bewildered. As you can see, the Vietnamese overseas were rushing to hoard supplies at the Costco wholesales. Recently, Costco has put up a notice that they would not accept any returns of toilet paper, hand sanitizers, rice, or instant noodles. Normally, if you buy something from Costco, you can return it even after a year or two, including electronics. These Vietnamese were rushing to buy extra supplies, and they couldn't consume all of it. Costco will not accept any returns of these above items. We live with the Vietnam War for so long, therefore we tend to rush and hoard. We have to remember that the United States is a country that never lets their people go hungry. Do not trust anyone. You must believe what the President of the United States says. Don't listen to the left side television stations. This morning, we heard President Donald Trump said that the United States of America and its people's lives are very important. He works day and night to protect us. He wants the United States to be united and not to publish fake news that hurts the U.S. economy. Again, I do not believe anyone else besides the President of the United States, because he is able to walk his talk and he does his best. That is the first answer. I will read the second question. My son and my son-in-law are serving for the U.S. in the Reserve Force, which are not active duty. However, for the past 2 days, they have received the orders to return to their base. Perhaps the war with the Chinese communists is imminent. I asked if they knew where they are going. My son says he doesn't know, but they had to gather in central Texas. I also asked my son if he's going to war with Chinese communists. He said that he doesn't know anything. He only knew that he was being ordered by his unit for an appearance to prepare under the orders of the Ministry of Defense. My family has 2 children. One is a son and the other is a son-in-law. Do you know anything about the upcoming Chinese Communist War? My son and son-in-law soldiers of the Reserve Force, not active. If this wasn't a big deal, would the unit send orders to them to report? Could the war be about to happen? If you know of any information, please give me the answer, because this is a big concern for parents whose children are serving in the U.S. military. Best wishes to you, Master. Actually, I received many sources yesterday from Vietnamese Americans whose children serving in the Reserve Force of the U.S. military. The United States military has 2 different forces. The active duty is a full-time soldier until the end of retirement. A reserve force is whenever the United States needs it, they can be called upon. These parents asked and called and asked me if there's going to be a war. I don't really know if a war is happening or not, but these are my theories. If the United States wants to declare war, it has to follow the following protocol. First is the media war. The media war was when the Chinese communists ordered their media to blame the United States for having the U.S. military bring the virus, Wuhan, to devastate China. That was a media war. Last week, the Chinese embassy ambassador in Washington, D.C. was summoned by the U.S. government and issued a formal document. It was a request that the Chinese government must apologize for the framing. If there was no apologies, the United States would follow the international agreement to take steps and apply diplomatic penalties. If you have been following the event, I still haven't seen the Chinese Communist Party have an apology statement for this slandering. If this Wuhan virus really came from the United States, why did Dr. Li Wingzhang get imprisoned? When he was working at the B4 biotech laboratories at the Chinese Communists in Wuhan city, he declared that there was a leakage and they could not control the coronavirus Wuhan. Dr. Li Wingzhang and 7 other doctors were arrested by the Chinese police. Sadly, Dr. Li Wingzhang died a month and a half ago. If it was not the Wuhan laboratory that created the virus, why would they capture and imprison Dr. Li Wingzhang? Before the United States engage in a war with Chinese communists, they must be in a media war. The foreign affair war would be the following step. If the Chinese Communist does not apologize to the United States for its false statement, claiming the corona Wuhan virus was synthetic and spread by the U.S. military, then the United States will take a step further, which is punishment. I predict this war will happen by the time is depending on the Chinese Communists and its fluctuation in poverty. My female disciple who lives in China and her husband works for Xi Jinping's government. A month ago, she informed me about the suicidal bombing campaign with the corona Wuhan virus to attack the big cities of the United States. At that time, I announced the message, and there were many unbelievers. She insisted me to announce the news and promised me that I will see the results in 3 weeks. That was 3 weeks ago, and now we all see the damage. She also talked to me from Hong Kong while preparing to go to the United States. However, the United States had banned all entry into the country except U.S. citizens and permanent residents. Even Canadians are not allowed to travel to the U.S. This female disciple called me this morning from Hong Kong to inform me that her and her husband will still have not the legal documents to travel to the United States. They probably have to wait for another 30 days to arrive in the U.S. She told me the famine and looting are happening in the mainland of China. The Chinese Communists has activated a campaign claiming they had ceased the outbreak of the Wuhan virus. There are many Chinese overseas who are native in Europe and brought tickets to return to the Chinese Communists. These people are dumbfounded when they face reality. The number of infected people have quadrupled since January to now. Many disciples said that the looting and robbing by the military zone has already happened. This morning, after talking with my female disciple, she informed me that she was not yet in the United States because of the seclusion policy of the United States during the time of the Chinese virus. I asked her if her husband would know whether war would occur or not. She told me that her husband said that the Chinese Communists had to choose a way to avoid the rebellion by leading to the dissatisfaction of the public opinion and poverty in the country to the world. There must be war between China with the United States and other Western countries. At present, Chinese Communists is well aware that Western allies such as Italy and other countries in the world have congresses who have enact laws and condemn the Chinese Communists. They know that sometimes after the vaccine is available and the epidemic is over, the Chinese Communists will be sued by European countries, the United States, and companies for hiding the corona Wuhan virus, which have occurred in China since November 7th, 2019, not January 23rd, 2020. Certainly, the communists will be sued. Chinese communists had no other way but to start a war if they did not want to be a civil war. Military zones in Xinjiang, Guangdong, Jingzi, Shanghai, and other military regions are no longer listening to Xi Jinping. Those Chinese people who heard the propaganda and returned from Europe, they scream because they know they were deceived. They rushed back to Hong Kong to find their way back to Europe. However, Europe and the United States almost already closed their borders to the Chinese communists. Her husband said the Chinese communists were choosing 4 battlefields. The first battlefield can be Taiwan. However, the Chinese communists cannot beat Taiwan. According to her husband, if the Chinese communists was capable of attacking Taiwan, the Chinese communists would mobilize their force to attack immediately, just like the year 1979, when the Chinese communist was in strong position to fight upon Vietnam. It immediately ordered its troops to attack. There is no need for threatening. My disciple asked her husband the reason Chinese would not start the war if they had been threatening Taiwan. His answer was because China is holding a weak position. The president of Taiwan, Tsai Ing-wen, knew this, and she was ready to defend. Therefore, it is unlikely that China would choose to have its battlefield in Taiwan. Furthermore, China was a country that had a treaty with the United States. The United States could not afford to have Taiwan Island be invaded by Chinese communists. Same with Japan, South Korea, and the whole world cannot let Taiwan be invaded by Chinese communist force. There's only a 20% chance that China will attack Taiwan. My disciple asked her next question. If Chinese communists would attack Vietnam, her husband's response was a 50% chance because Vietnam will be easier to take over. The Vietnamese will easily surrender to the Chinese troops. However, recently the United States anchored its aircraft carrier in Da Nang Bay and was accompanied by 6 cruisers. In a way, the United States violated Chinese sovereignty, which is a way to show that Vietnam secretly is supported by the United States. However, there are some forces in Vietnam who took side on the United States and waged the Chinese Civil War so that they would follow the United States. According to her husband, the Chinese communist was very upset because the Vietnamese communists allowed U.S. aircraft anchor in Da Nang port for a week, despite the warning of communist ships. From these, we can conclude that there were fractions in Vietnam that did not obey Nguyễn Phú Trong's order. The probability of Vietnam becoming the battlefield would be 50%. Third battlefield can be North Korea. Her husband said that North Korea had been taking sides with the United States. That was the reason it dared to declare that if any Chinese crossed the border of North Korea, they would be shot down. Kim Jong-un betrayed the Chinese Communist Party, which is something that hasn't happened in the past. For a long time, North Korea received aid in oil, natural gas, coal, firearms, and everything. Kim Jong-un dared to order that any Chinese communists who fled to North Korea would be shot down. This was indicating that it was challenging to Chinese communists. Therefore, the war in North Korea could happen to redirect the public's opinion as punishing North Korea. It is less likely to be criticized by the Western countries because North Korea currently does not have any treaty. It has not signed any official treaty with Western countries to receive protection. Chinese communists could choose North Korea as a battlefield to punish and direct and redirect the frustration in China. That was what my female disciple said. In my opinion, Chinese communists cannot attack Taiwan because Taiwan is well prepared and the United States has a treaty to protect Taiwan. Chinese communists could then attack Vietnam, but it will also be a problem because Vietnam is devastated because of the Wuhan outbreak. Vietnam now has nothing for the Chinese communists to occupy. The resistance force has formed in the country, so it has not conducive to Chinese communists to attack Vietnam. My disciple husband said that the chance of choosing Vietnam was only 50%, and North Korea was 50%, while 30% to 70% will happen in the Eastern Sea. That is, the Chinese communists will choose to fight in the South China Sea. China will claim all the infrastructure on the artificial island and the 9-dash line called the Sea of China. China will use all its space on Spratly and Trung Sa Island to fight against the United States. Fighting the United States in the South China Sea will be beneficial to the Chinese communists. After losing to the United States, the Chinese communists surrenders to the United States. And when that happens, the Chinese communists will still retain the communist regime. The United States will enter China and force the Chinese communists to surrender. Under the conditions of surrender, the Chinese communist regime will be maintained. The military force would not create a coup d'etat. The communists will be torn into pieces if civil war happens between military regions. If the Chinese government wants to maintain the Communist Party, they will fight in the South China Sea. Fighting in the South China Sea is fighting with the United States. Once they give up, the United States is a country that always respects the international constitution. For example, when Japan fought with the United States, upon surrendering, the United States entered the country and helped to build a democratic government. The United States will not hang Xi Jinping as they did not hang the Japanese emperor. That meant Kim Jong-un. It deemed like there was a secret treaty that the United States will protect North Korea. As you can clearly see, under Obama era, North Korea fired missiles to receive aid money from the Obama administration. After North Korea had a secret agreement with the United States, especially the Donald Trump administration, North Korea sometimes tests their missiles, but Donald Trump still didn't say anything. North Korea sometimes do something oddly. President Trump still doesn't say anything. He even gave some medical supplies to help North Korea to fight the Wuhan virus. In my opinion, Kim Jong-un and President Donald Trump had a secret treaty. Without this treaty, there was no way the North Korean president would dare to give orders to shoot any Chinese if crossing the borders into North Korea to avoid the outbreak of the corona flu. The actual war will occur, and it will follow the media war. The economic war between the United States and the Chinese communists was over. The media war was almost there. The diplomatic war is taking place. If the Chinese communist doesn't apologize to the United States for framing the United States military, for bringing the corona Wuhan virus into the country of China, that will be a diplomatic war. In the upcoming week, the United States will exchange some diplomats to retaliate if the Chinese communist does not apologize. At the end of the diplomatic war, the campaign for the public opinion of the American people will start to get ready for a military war. Anyways, I recommend my group of disciples who ask the first question, who should we trust while in the United States? You must not believe anyone. You should believe in President Trump's enthusiasm for the sake of the people. Every day, if you want to follow news, just go on Google to keep track of what the President of the United States says and what he does. You can conclude if he has benefited the United States or harmed the United States. We should remember that the United States does not hide the outbreak of the corona Wuhan virus. The United States is also asking if anyone who is sick or suspecting infection to call a provided phone number to check. The United States never hides the outbreak because the United States wants to stop this disease. As you can recall, all flights from China to the United States are suspended for 2 months. They were suspended 2 months ago. The restrictions on traveling was implemented to protect the health of the people. However, despite all that effort, the number of infection of the coronavirus Wuhan still increases daily. Meanwhile, in Vietnam, 6 border gates are still wide open. All the infected cases were reported because of the source from Korea and the Europeans. Do you believe it? While every day there are hundreds of thousands of Chinese still invading Vietnam. Look at the infected cases of the United States, Italy, and the world so that we can estimate the number of infected cases in Vietnam. Vietnam is suppressing the truth. The U.S. government is not hushed and enthusiastically spending money to support the Americans. There's no reason we should stab behind the United States' back. If you want to know who to believe, trust the President of the United States. He can do the walk. He talked. We have to support the President so he can protect the United States to overcome the corona epidemic created by those that carried the bio-suicide bomb attack on our country. Respectfully.